The morning started like any other. Grey London light spilling lazily across my kitchen counter, steam curling from my coffee mug. I remember lifting it halfway to my lips when my phone buzzed. I didn't expect anything heavy. Not before 9 a.m. But then Douglas, my lawyer, exhaled sharply through the line. Elizabeth, silly girl. He wasn't speaking to me. More like muttering to himself as he flipped through papers I couldn't see. But the words still landed, sharp and cold, that I blinked, confused. Douglas? What happened? A beat. Then another. Then his voice lowered into something tight, controlled. The condo. Your grandmother's condo. It's gone. My fingers froze around the warm ceramic. Gone. The word hovered in the air like smoke. What do you mean gone? The deed was transferred. The property was sold. Signed off. Processed. He swallowed audibly. Elizabeth, someone sold your inheritance. For a moment I didn't feel heat or anger or disbelief. I felt nothing, just a strange cold clarity sliding through me like ice water. I didn't scream. I didn't gasp. I didn't even hang up. My gaze drifted to the window instead, watching the slow London drizzle streak the glass. Each raindrop slipped downward in a thin silver line, like the sky was whispering something I already half knew. Because if my sister, Molin, really forged those documents, if she believed I'd stay quiet just because I lived an ocean away, she had no idea what silence can do. I set my coffee down carefully, the cup clinking too loudly against the counter. My mind drifted back, not to anger, not yet, but to distance. The distance that had once protected me. London had been my escape. A city where I could breathe without my family's shadows stretching across my back. Here I built a life that wasn't measured by church gossip or holiday dinners, or who looked more put together. Here, I wasn't the daughter who disappointed quietly. I was just me. Meanwhile, back in Florida, Molin stayed, marrying well, dressing better, becoming the polished daughter mom presented proudly to neighbors between casserole exchanges. She was the success story. I was the dreamer who left. But there was one person who never made me feel like a mistake. Grandma Evelyn. She was sunlight in human form, soft, warm, and endlessly patient. When the world made me feel small, she made space for me to breathe. Every summer we sat on her balcony overlooking Tampa Bay. She'd brew lavender tea, the scent drifting lazily in the humid air, while the ceiling fan hummed like a gentle lullaby. She always wore that silver watch, the one that caught the morning sun and glimmered like a promise. Don't let life make you small, Lizzie, she'd whisper, squeezing my hand. You're meant to take up space. That condo wasn't just property. It was her legacy, her voice, her love written into walls. And the moment Douglas said it was sold, something inside me shifted. A precise, surgical kind of shock. That I imagined Molin signing papers with her flawless manicure, that polite smile she wore like armor. The same smile she used at Grandma's funeral, greeting relatives like a hostess rather than a grieving granddaughter. I had thought she was just being responsible. Turns out she was rearranging more than flowers. Mom's voice echoed in my mind. You should be more like your sister. She has her life together. I never fought back. What was the point? Arguing in our family was like yelling into a hurricane. You lost your breath before you made a dent. So when Douglas said the condo had been sold, I didn't fall apart. I sharpened that. I opened my laptop slowly, scrolling through old photos until I found the one. Grandma on the balcony, sunlight tangled in her white hair, her hand resting on mine. The picture made my throat tighten. That was what my sister stole. Not the building, not the money, but the last thing in this world that proved someone once believed I was enough. The rain tapped harder on the window, almost insistently, like a warning or a nudge. I closed my eyes. Grandma, I'm sorry. I should have protected what you gave me. Before the guilt could settle, my phone buzzed again. An email from Douglas. Subject. Inconsistencies found. My heartbeat stilled. Because deep down, I already knew who was behind them. Douglas's voice carried through the crackling line like a storm trying to stay polite. Elizabeth, there's something off about these documents. I straightened in my chair. Off how? The notary stamps don't match. And the signature. He paused, the silence stretching thin between us. Looks rehearsed. Rehearsed. The word clung to the air, heavy, deliberate, ugly. My stomach dropped. I pushed my chair back, staring at the computer screen though nothing on it had changed. You mean forged? He exhaled, slow, confirming. Your sister must have done it. Those two words, silly girl, echoed again in my mind. Not from him. From them, from the family who always believed I didn't notice things, didn't understand things, didn't matter enough to question anything. But now those words felt different. Sharpened. A challenge. If my sister thought I would stay quiet, if she thought I was still the naive girl who let things slide, she forgot who raised me. She forgot who taught me to pay attention. I minimized the call and opened the old email Douglas had sent months ago, the one with Grandma's will attached. I pulled up the scanned signature, the one I'd seen so many times I could trace it from memory. Then I opened the fake one. Side by side. My breath hitched. Grandma's loops were gentle, soft like the woman herself. The forged one was tighter, forced like someone trying too hard to mimic affection they didn't have. And that pressure, that heavy-handed press of the pen at the end of each stroke. I knew that writing, Mullen always pressed too hard. She liked leaving marks. Rain slid down my window in crooked trails as if the sky itself was unraveling. Inside, I felt the same unraveling rage, disbelief, and a slow-burning clarity merging into something sharper. Grandma's voice echoed in my memory, warm and steady. If someone steals from you, they're not taking what's yours. They're revealing who they are. And suddenly, I saw exactly who my sister was. Douglas cleared his throat on the line. Listen, Elizabeth. Don't confront her yet. If she altered legal records, we need proof. Real proof. I nodded even though he couldn't see me. The nod felt like a promise to myself. Okay, I said, voice flat and strangely strong. Find out how deep it goes. The call ended, leaving me alone in an apartment too quiet, too still. A silence that hummed, not comforting but electric. Dangerous. That I stared at my hands, trembling slightly above the keyboard. It wasn't just about the condo. It was every little moment that came before it. Every dinner table where Mullen outshone me. Every time Mom said, "You're too emotional." Every eye roll when I said I wanted to go to art school. Every quiet comparison I pretended not to hear. Each memory pressed into me like a bruise. Maybe I was emotional. Maybe I felt too deeply. But emotion didn't make me weak. It made me human. And right now, it made me dangerous. I spent hours gathering everything. Old emails, Grandma's handwritten letters, digital scans, photos of her signature on birthday cards and postcards. I lined them up on my screen, one by one, stroke by stroke. There it was, plain as daylight. The forgery was almost perfect. Almost. And that almost was enough to ruin her. By midnight, my table was buried under papers, my laptop glowing like a lighthouse in the dark. 3 empty mugs circled me like silent witnesses. I sent Douglas the photos, the comparisons, the notes, everything, and before hitting send, I typed a single line. She thought I wouldn't notice. She was wrong. My phone buzzed almost instantly. A notification from a blocked number. A text, "You've been asking questions." My blood ran cold. I froze, fingers hovering uselessly above the screen, breath catching halfway. I typed back, hands shaking. "Who is this?" The typing dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Then nothing. The screen went still. I stared at it until the glow blurred. Morning came with a quiet London fog. And another call. My phone lit up with a name I hadn't seen in months. Mullen. I stared at her name, pulsing softly on my screen, as if even my phone was afraid of what would happen next. Curiosity tugged at me. Anger held the rope tighter. Finally, I swiped. Her voice burst out. Sugary sweet, too loud, too bright. Liz, you won't believe how busy I've been. I finally sold Grandma's condo. My chest tightened. You sold it? Yep, she chirped. Cash offer. $320. The realtor said I handled it like a pro. She laughed, light, perfect, rehearsed. And I wanted to thank you for not getting in the way. I know legal stuff overwhelms you. My jaw clenched so tight it hurt. Overwhelms me? Say that again. Please. And hey, she continued, voice dripping with fake generosity, I'm sending you $10,000 next week. Thought you could use a little help with rent over there. $10,000. Out of the property I inherited. Molen, I said slowly. You do realize that condo was mine. She laughed like I'd told her a silly joke. Oh, come on. Grandma wanted it for both of us. You're off in Europe living your art dream. I handled everything for the family. Her tone shifted, sharp, defensive. You forged her signature, I said quietly. The air thickened. Watch it, Liz, she snapped. You don't know what you're talking about. But I did. And she could hear it in my voice that I took a slow breath. Actually, I do. Douglas found inconsistencies. Stamps that don't exist. Handwriting that doesn't match. Silence. A heavy, guilty silence. Then a forced laugh. You're being dramatic again. Maybe your lawyer wants more money. Don't embarrass yourself. She hung up. Just like that. The call ended, but her voice lingered. Like poison, like arrogance. Like a mask slipping that I stared at my reflection in the rain-streaked window. My heart wasn't racing, that IT was steady. Calm. Terrifyingly calm, that I hit play on the call recording. Every word preserved. Every lie documented, proof. Her downfall. Gift wrapped by her own arrogance. That I emailed it to Douglas and typed just 2 words. Proceed. Everything. But the night wasn't done with me yet. Because when my phone rang again, my mother's name lit up my phone like a warning flare. For a moment I just stared at it. The way someone stares at a door they know holds a storm behind it, that I almost didn't answer. But guilt, the old familiar kind, pressed the green button for me. Sweetheart, she said before I could greet her. Her voice was warm, too warm. A softness she only used when delivering bad news wrapped in denial. I just spoke to Molen. My stomach tightened. She told me she sold Grandma's place. Such a relief to have that handled. Handled. The word struck something sharp inside me. Handled. My voice cracked, small, trembling, betrayed. Yes, she continued, breezing right past the fracture in my tone. She's been working so hard. You should be proud of her. Proud. Proud of what? Proud of theft? Proud of betrayal dressed in cream-colored respectability. I swallowed back the bitterness burning in my throat. Mom, did she tell you who inherited it? There was a pause, a long one. The kind where you can hear someone choosing a lie. She said it was divided equally. I shut my eyes. That's not true, Mom. Grandma left it to me. Silence. Then, oh, Elizabeth. The disappointment in her voice was so familiar it felt like muscle memory. Why start drama? Your sister's done everything right. Please just let it go. The line clicked. She ended the call before I could defend myself, before I could breathe, before I could even exist in her version of truth. For a long moment, I stood frozen in my apartment, only the hum of the fridge and the faint hiss of London rain filling the empty spaces her words had hollowed out. They always thought I was too emotional, too dramatic, too sensitive. The silly girl who ran off chasing art instead of staying home, fitting into their neat little boxes. But emotion wasn't the weakness they believed. That IT was the reason I could feel betrayal so clearly. It was the reason I could sense when someone twisted truth. It was the reason I could finally fight back. I walked to my desk, fingers moving on instinct rather than thought. I opened a new folder. Blank. Untouched. Waiting. I titled it Truth. Then I began dropping in everything: the call recordings, the handwriting comparisons, scanned letters, timestamps, screenshots. Not just evidence. A weapon. Every click, every file felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. 3 days later, Douglas called. His voice was different this time, faster, firmer, carrying an undercurrent of something electric. Elizabeth, he said. We've filed the fraud report. The court approved our request. A pause. The proceeds from the sale are frozen. Molin's about to find out. I pressed the phone harder against my ear, my pulse steady as a drum. Then I guess we wait. But we didn't wait long to be noon. My phone began buzzing like it was possessed. 1 call. Then another. Then 10 more. Molin. 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 I let the first 10 ring out, watching her name flash in desperate bursts across my screen. By the time the 20th call came through, I answered. What the hell did you do? She screamed, her voice raw, not polished, not perfect. Panicked, I inhaled slowly. I don't know, I said coolly. Why don't you tell me? Don't play dumb, Liz. The bank froze my account this morning. Do you have any idea what you've done? I didn't do anything, I said. The truth did. There was a silent beat, crack in her voice. Then a bitter laugh, high and shaky. You've lost it. You think you can ruin me? You're delusional. My grip tightened on the phone. You stole what Grandma left me, I said quietly. You forged her name and pocketed the money. Don't act surprised now that the consequences showed up. Her breathing hitched sharp, angry. Oh, please. You were never responsible enough to manage that property. I handled it for the family, like I always do. You should thank me. Thank her. For gutting Grandma's memory? For carving her legacy into cash? Something cold, sharp, and final settled in my chest. You live in another country sketching logos and drinking lattes, she spat. You don't deserve that condo. The words cut, but something in me felt them differently this time. They didn't wound. They revealed. And you do? I asked softly. Someone had to act like an adult, she hissed. Then something inside me snapped quietly, neatly. Not a breakdown, a breakthrough. You know what, Molin? Maybe I didn't grow up the way you wanted, but Grandma trusted me. And you didn't just steal money, you stole her memory. There was a soft click. She hung up. The silence afterward was heavier than her accusations. It filled the room like fog. Minutes later, my phone buzzed again. Mom. I almost didn't answer. But something, curiosity, pain, duty, made me swipe. Elizabeth, my mother said, her voice tight with panic. What's going on? Molin's in tears. She says you filed a fraud case. Is that true? It's true, I whispered. Because she forged Grandma's documents. Don't be ridiculous, she snapped. Your sister would never do something like that. She's responsible. You. Mom. I cut in, my voice trembling but firm. This isn't emotion. It's evidence. Douglas verified the signatures. She admitted it. On the phone. You recorded your sister, she gasped. Yes, I said. Because no one ever believes me unless I prove it. Silence filled the space between us. Then her sigh, a tired, familiar sigh, rolled through the line like an old bruise reopening. You used to be kind, she said quietly. I don't know what happened to you. The call ended. Just like that. Just like always. That I stared into the stillness of my apartment, rain tapping softly against the window, my reflection caught in the glass, clear, cold, unflinching. For years they mistook my silence for weakness. Now silence was my weapon. 2 nights later, the phone rang again. Another unknown number. I nearly ignored it, until I saw the name, Ethan Pierce. My sister's husband. My chest tightened. I answered slowly, cautiously. Ethan. His voice came through small, tired, stripped of all the softness he usually used around family. Hey, Elizabeth, he said. I hope I'm not crossing a line. But I think you deserve to know the truth. I didn't speak. He continued, voice cracking around the edges. I didn't know what she'd done. She told me you had given up your claim. I didn't question it. But after everything blew up, the frozen account, the bank calls, I started checking things myself. A shaky inhale. She forged it, Elizabeth. The will. The notary stamps. Everything. My heartbeat slowed, steady, heavy, inevitable. She said you wouldn't notice from overseas, he whispered. I confronted her yesterday. She broke down. Said she deserved it more. The world around me went still. And you're telling me this now because I can't keep lying for her, he said softly. If this goes to court, I'll testify. For a moment I couldn't breathe. Then, thank you. You don't have to thank me, he said quietly. You were right all along. When the call ended, I sat in silence. A different silence this time. Not heavy. Not grieving. A silence that felt clear. Empowered. Final. The truth was finally speaking. And this time, everyone would hear it. The courthouse smelled of old wood and rain-soaked coats. I sat in the second row behind Douglas, hands clasped, heartbeat steady but quiet. The kind of quiet you only get after surviving too much noise. The clerk called. Case of estate fraud. Respondent. Mullen Daniels. Heads turned, whispers stirred like wine through tall grass. And then she entered. My sister, once polished, composed, untouchable, now looked cracked. Her hair pulled too tightly, her eyes swollen from nights of crying, her steps unsure. For the first time in my life, she looked human. Not perfect. Not superior. Just breakable. Mom walked in behind her, lips thin, eyes darting, wearing a look that screamed, fix this, fix this, fix this. She didn't even look at me. Good that I didn't come for her. Douglas stood with calm authority, placing files on the judge's bench with surgical precision. Your Honor, Exhibit A, the original will. He placed Grandma's actual signature beside the forged one. Side by side. Impossible to ignore, even from where I sat. The differences glowed under the courtroom light like bruises. Gasps echoed. Mullen's face drained. Then came the emails, her messages to the real estate agent, pretending to be the sole heir, the bank statements, deposits made to her personal account, the voice recording, her own words shaken and furious. You don't deserve that, Condo. Every word cut like a blade. Mom flinched. Ethan sat in the back row, staring at the floor, shame carved into his posture. Douglas looked at him. Mr. Pierce, please approach the stand. My breath caught. He hesitated. Then rose. Mullen's hands flew up, trembling. Ethan, no, don't. He didn't look at her. Not once. Ethan took the oath, then met the judge's eyes with something that looked like resignation and relief. My wife forged the documents, he said softly. I confronted her. She admitted everything. She told me Elizabeth lived far away and wouldn't notice. The room erupted in murmurs. The judge raised a hand for silence. Mom whispered something to Mullen, something desperate. But whatever she said only made her daughter shrink deeper into herself. Douglas continued, his tone controlled, unshakable. And what did your wife say about why she took the property? Ethan swallowed. She said she deserved it more. That Elizabeth wouldn't use it properly. The judge turned slowly toward Mullen. Is that true? My sister didn't answer. Her throat moved. Her lips parted. But no sound came out. It didn't matter. The truth was already louder than anything she could say. The judge's voice was steady, firm, final. Given the overwhelming evidence, this court rules in favor of the petitioner. The sale proceeds are awarded to Elizabeth Clark. Furthermore, the respondent will face charges for willful fraud, forgery, and misrepresentation. Mom gasped, a broken, sharp sound. Mullen let out a shuddering breath and sank into her seat. Ethan closed his eyes. The judge wasn't finished. In addition, you are ordered to pay punitive damages. This behavior is severe. My sister's hand shook violently. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. But then I remembered every phone call, every lie, Every dismissal. Mom choosing her, always her. Their voices calling me dramatic, unstable, emotional. No, this wasn't cruelty. This was justice. As the courtroom emptied, I stood to leave, but Mullen stepped in front of me, her face streaked with mascara, her breath trembling. "You ruined me," she whispered as I looked her dead in the eye. "No, Mullen. You ruined yourself. I just stopped covering it up." Mom rushed over, eyes blazing. "How could you do this to your family?" she hissed as I turned to her slowly, calmly. "Family doesn't steal from you, Mom. Family doesn't lie for convenience. Family doesn't silence you when you're the only one telling the truth." She opened her mouth to argue, but the judge's bailiff called from behind. "Ma'am, please step aside." For the first time, my mother obeyed someone else's rules. I walked past her, past them both, and not one followed. Weeks later, the money landed in my account. Every penny. Douglas sent an email titled, "Congratulations. You won." I didn't reply. Some victories don't need words. I visited Grandma's grave that Sunday. The sky was soft, pale blue. Birds stitched their calls through the air like gentle threads. I placed a single white rose on the stone. "I got it back," I whispered. "I kept your name clean." A breeze brushed my cheek, warm and familiar. For the first time in years, I felt seen. Not by my mother. Not by my sister. By myself. Months passed and I bought my own place. Sunlit, quiet, mine. I hung one of Grandma's old photos above my desk. Every time I walked past it, I felt her there saying, "Good girl. You didn't let them bury the truth." And my sister. Her reputation shattered. Friends vanished. Her job let her go quietly. Her marriage cracked under the weight of her own choices. She fell apart the same way she built her life. Perfect on the outside, rotting underneath. Mom tried calling once that I let it ring. Sometimes revenge is loud. Sometimes it's fire. But the best revenge is peace. And I had finally, beautifully, completely found mine.